6 years ago, my colleague pulled into the office parking lot in a brand new car. Shiny, black, that specific kind of quiet that expensive cars have when they idle. Everyone noticed. People walked over. Someone made a comment about how he was clearly doing well. He smiled in that way people smile when they've been waiting for exactly that reaction. I drove home that evening in my 2009 Honda Civic with 94,000 miles on it and a coffee stain on the passenger seat that had been there since 2017. I won't pretend I didn't feel something in that parking lot. I did. A specific cocktail of inadequacy and social comparison that I'm pretty sure is just a standard feature of being human. But here's what happened next that nobody in that parking lot saw coming. 3 years later, my colleague was quietly stressed about money in ways he never talked about directly but showed up in 100 small ways. The way he hesitated before agreeing to team lunches. The way a company restructuring announcement made him visibly panic in a way that seemed disproportionate. The careful way he managed any conversation that got close to finances. And I had just crossed $180,000 in invested assets. Same jobs, same salary range, same parking lot. Completely different. Financial realities built entirely on one decision that repeated itself every month for years without anyone around me knowing it was happening. The decision to keep driving the same car. Cars occupy a strange and uniquely powerful position in the psychology of money. They are simultaneously the most visible status symbol most people own and one of the most financially destructive purchases available. They sit in driveways where neighbors can see them. They follow you to work, to social events, to family gatherings. They function as a rolling broadcast of your financial identity, or at least the identity you want people to believe you have. And because of that visibility, the social pressure around cars is unlike almost any other category of spending. Most people don't care what brand of mattress you sleep on. Nobody is silently judging your kitchen appliances. But the car? The car is public. The car gets noticed. The car generates comments and comparisons, and a quiet, ongoing social accounting of where you stand relative to the people around you. This is why car upgrading is so default, so normal, so thoroughly embedded in how most people think about what you do when your financial situation improves. Of course, you get a better car when you earn more. Of course, you upgrade when the old one hits a certain age or mileage. Of course, you don't drive something embarrassing when you're a professional adult with a real job. Of course. Except that, of course, is costing most people somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 over a working lifetime. And almost nobody has done the math to know it. Let's make this completely concrete. The average new car payment in America right now sits around $735 per month. Used car payments average around $520. People who upgrade every 4 to 5 years, and which is the most common pattern, are carrying a car payment for essentially their entire adult working life. It becomes a permanent fixture of the monthly budget. Just the cost of having a car. Just how it works. Now let's look at what that permanent fixture actually costs. $520 per month. The average used car payment, invested instead into a broad market index, fund from age 25 to age 55, 30 years. Historical average return of 10% annually. The result, approximately $150,000, $1 million from the car payment. That's it. No other changes to behavior. No additional income. No complex investment strategy. Just redirecting the car payment into an index fund for 30 years. Now I want to be precise here because the objection will come. You still need a car. Driving the same car for 10 years isn't free. There are maintenance costs, repair costs, the eventual replacement. Fair. Let's run the honest version. Someone who buys a reliable used car for $12,000 cash, drives it for 10 years, spends an average of $150 per month on maintenance and repairs across that period, and then repeats the cycle, is spending roughly $270 per month on car ownership all in over that decade. Someone on the standard upgrade cycle, new or nearly new every 4 to 5 years with average financing, is spending roughly $750 to $850 per month all in, including payment, higher insurance, and the depreciation absorbed on each new purchase. The difference? Approximately $500 per month every month for 10 years. $500 per month for 10 years invested at historical market returns. Approximately $102,000. That's the 10-year car decision. $100,000. Sitting in an investment account versus sitting inside a vehicle that lost a third of its value the moment it left the lot. And that's just 10 years. Most people make this decision for 30 years. Here's the part that car payment spreadsheets never capture. The lived experience of driving the same car for a decade while everyone around you upgrades. Year 1 and 2 feel completely normal. The car is just the car. No social pressure because no time has passed yet. You haven't diverged from anyone's expectations. Year 3 is when it starts. A colleague mentions they're looking at new cars. Someone at a family gathering asks if you're thinking of upgrading soon. It's casual, friendly even. But underneath the question is an assumption, that upgrading is the obvious next step for someone doing well. That keeping the old car is temporary, transitional, something you're doing because you have to, rather than because you decided to. Year 4 and 5 are the hardest socially. This is when the gap between your car and your peers' cars becomes genuinely visible. The parking lot at work starts looking different. Friends you grew up with are driving things that cost more than your first apartment. The comment stops being, "Are you thinking of upgrading?" and becomes, "Is everything okay?" And here's the psychological truth of that moment. It requires something that most personal finance advice skips entirely: the ability to tolerate being misread, to let people draw the wrong conclusion about your financial situation and not correct them, to resist the pull of using a car purchase as a way to communicate something about yourself to your social environment. That's harder than it sounds, because humans are social animals and financial status signaling is baked into us at a level that predates rational thought. The urge to be seen correctly and to have your actual financial progress visible in some way that others can register is real, and it's strong, and it doesn't respond well to spreadsheets. Year 6 through 8, something quietly shifts, not in the external situation, in the internal one. The investments you've been building start crossing thresholds that feel meaningful. The gap between your visible financial life and your actual financial life becomes large enough that the visible part stops mattering the way it used to. You stop wanting the car to tell the story, because the story is being told somewhere else, in numbers nobody around you can see, and it's getting genuinely good. Year 9 and 10, you drive past a dealership and feel something unexpected. Not temptation exactly, more like mild amusement. You know what's sitting in that showroom. You know what it costs per month. You know exactly what that monthly number is doing in your investment account instead. And the amusement is at the gap between what the car looks like from the outside, success, arrival, achievement, and what you know is actually true about where the money goes. Here's the principle underneath this specific story that applies to every major financial decision you'll ever make. Visible spending and invisible building are in constant competition for the same dollars, and the human social environment is specifically structured to reward visible spending with immediate feedback, admiration, recognition, the feeling of being seen as successful, while building happens in complete silence with zero social reward in the short term. This asymmetry is not an accident. It's the fundamental design of a consumption economy. When you spend visibly, other people see it, and that visibility creates social validation that feels like confirmation. You made a good decision. When you invest quietly, nobody sees it, and the absence of social feedback can make it feel like nothing is happening, like the decision isn't real or significant or worth the ongoing sacrifice. But here's what's actually happening in the silence. Compound interest doesn't care whether anyone is watching. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't pause during the years when you feel socially behind your peers. It just runs, quietly and visibly accumulating, in a direction that the parking lot comparison will never reveal and the dinner table conversation will never expose. The car is the symbol. The principle is about any decision where visible spending competes with invisible building. And the people who build real wealth over time are almost universally the ones who got comfortable, slowly, imperfectly, sometimes painfully, with being visibly unremarkable while being invisibly extraordinary. 3 things worth deciding before your next car-related decision. First, calculate your actual 10-year car cost before making any decision, not the monthly payment. The 10-year total including financing costs, insurance differential, depreciation absorbed, and opportunity cost of the capital. Most people have never done this calculation, and the result genuinely changes how the decision feels. A $600 monthly payment doesn't feel like $144,000 in cash plus $80,000 in lost investment growth, but that's what it is over a decade. See the real number. Second, separate the transportation decision from the identity decision. This is the most important practical move. Ask yourself honestly, is this car purchase solving a transportation problem or a social perception problem? Both are real human needs, but they have very different price tags. A reliable used car solves the transportation problem for $8,000 to $15,000 cash. The identity problem, the need to be seen as successful to signal status, to feel like your external life matches your internal sense of who you are, cannot be solved by any car at any price. It comes from somewhere else entirely. Third, find your version of the internal scoreboard. The decade gets dramatically easier psychologically once you have a metric that makes your invisible progress feel real. Your investment account balance, your months of financial freedom purchased, the percentage of your expenses covered by investment returns. Check it regularly. Let it be the thing that tells you how you're actually doing, because the parking lot comparison is always going to be available, and it's always going to be misleading. Subscribe to Real Veil Studios for this kind of honest financial storytelling, the real lived experience behind the numbers that changes how decisions actually feel to make. Hit subscribe and share this with someone sitting on a car upgrade decision. Right now, the colleague with the shiny black car isn't a villain in this story. He made a completely normal, completely human decision that most people around him were also making. He wanted to be seen. He wanted the external acknowledgement that the internal experience of working hard doesn't always provide. That's not a character flaw. That's just being human in a social world. But the Honda Civic with the coffee stain on the passenger seat was also a decision. A quiet one. An invisible one. One that required sitting with social discomfort for years and tolerating being misread by people whose opinion I genuinely cared about. And then one Tuesday morning, checking an investment account and seeing a number that made the coffee stain completely, absolutely, permanently worth it. Nobody in that parking lot saw it happen. That was always the point.